Stay one step ahead with Dubai Eye.
It's Emirati Women's Day, and we are very pleased to be speaking this morning to a very inspirational Emirati woman, Amal Murad, who is the first Emirati Parkour Instructor. Amal, it's lovely to have you in again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure being here.
Now, Malcolm has been on YouTube watching parkour videos, so he is all up on what parkour is. But do you want to give us sort of a layman's explanation?
Okay, by definition, parkour is going from point A to point B in the quickest and most efficient manner. So basically, you're overcoming obstacles in your path, but you have to be creative with it. People tend to forget the innovative side of parkour, where you have to find a route in the place that you're in, and you use your environment as your playground, basically.
Which is a fantastic metaphor for what we're discussing this morning.
Yes.
I think of it as people jumping over benches.
But that's what people perceive it to be, especially if you saw The Office, where people are just jumping on desks. But there's so much more to it. Like if you see football, people will say people are just running around after a ball. So I think there's so much that comes to play.
I mean, what was your parents' reaction when you started doing it?
My mom wasn't as happy, only because she was afraid. She was afraid that because it looked dangerous, but that's what you see in movies, really. You just have to start slow. You start on the ground. You start exploring your environment. With every sport comes some kind of risk, and I think that's important to point out.
And it is a sport. How did you initially get into it?
Well, as a child, I was a big fan of Assassin's Creed and movies. I was a nerd. I used to play games. And what happened was that since childhood, we used to play in the neighborhood, and we used to do parkour, but we never really called it anything except being a child. And growing up, I always saw stunt doubles, and I was so fascinated by them. And then my cousin opened a gym, which is Gravity, in El Coz. And what's amazing is that they started giving classes, and I gave it a shot, even though I had no idea what I was doing at the time. But it was the beginning, and it was wonderful.
So how do you move from doing something like that from fun to leaving your full-time job to make it your livelihood?
Well, that's like a very long story. I'm going to summarize it as fast as I can. But basically, I was a graphic designer for almost 4 years in the corporate world. And once I started doing this, I realized how much my personality changed, how much I've become more confident, more, just I was a go-getter when it came to my sport. And with my career, I didn't feel the same way. I didn't feel like I was as ambitious or I didn't feel like that was part of what I wanted to do in the future. And I was giving so much as a coach. So I felt like that was my leeway of actually giving back to the community in a very different way than when I was in my full-time job. I didn't feel that.
Did it feel risky, though, to give up a secure job in order to go off and be an instructor, where you're very much reliant on, more what the economy is doing, whether people think they can pay for instruction? It goes up, it goes down. It's not a set salary.
For sure. But that's why, I always tell people, if you're going to leave your job, you always have to have a backup plan. So I still do freelance graphic design when things get tough and I feel like I'm not getting enough clients. I still have to go back to my roots, and I feel like people tend to think if you leave your job, that's about it. But I still use my talent to kind of, work on something just in case.
Stay one step ahead with Dubai Eye.